There are moments in life when something inside you reacts before your mind has time to explain it. You hear someone speaking, the words sound reasonable on the surface, and everyone around you seems to accept them without hesitation. Yet somewhere deep inside your chest, a quiet tension appears, almost like an invisible alarm that only you can hear. You cannot immediately explain what is wrong. Nothing obvious has happened. The person speaking may even sound confident and calm, but still that strange feeling grows stronger. Something does not fit. Something does not align. And even if you try to ignore it, your spirit refuses to relax. If you have experienced this again and again throughout your life, you may have already realized something unusual about yourself. You notice dishonesty long before others do. You sense it in small pauses, in subtle changes of tone, in the way someone's expression shifts for half a second before returning to normal. While others listen only to the words being spoken, your awareness seems to reach beyond the words and examine the space behind them. This ability often begins quietly. When you were younger, you may not have understood it. You might have simply felt uncomfortable around certain people without knowing why. Perhaps you later discovered that the same people were hiding something, manipulating situations, or speaking half-truths that eventually revealed themselves. Over time, these experiences begin to form a pattern, and slowly you realize that your instincts are rarely random. The feeling that something is off often appears before the evidence ever arrives. For many people, this experience would seem unsettling, but for the chosen one, it becomes a familiar part of life. Your mind is not easily satisfied with surface explanations. It automatically compares what someone says with how they behave, with what they said before, and with the subtle emotional signals their body reveals without permission. This process happens so quickly that you may not even realize your brain is doing it. Within seconds, you can sense the difference between sincerity and performance. It is not that you are searching for lies intentionally. In many situations, you would prefer to believe the person in front of you. Yet your awareness keeps noticing small inconsistencies that others overlook. A voice that becomes slightly tighter at the wrong moment. A smile that appears half a second too late. A story that changes its details without explanation. These signals may seem insignificant individually, but when your mind gathers them together, they create a clear impression. Something is not true. At times, this awareness can feel almost inconvenient. You may sit in a room full of people, nodding along with a story that sounds convincing, while your own mind quietly refuses to accept it. You may even wonder if you are imagining things. After all, if everyone else seems comfortable, why should you be the only one sensing tension in the air? But the truth is that most people simply do not pay attention to the same signals you notice automatically. They hear the words and move on. Your mind listens deeper. It listens to the rhythm beneath the words, the emotional undertone that reveals more than the speaker intended. This ability is not only psychological. Scripture has long described a form of awareness called discernment, the capacity to recognize truth and deception even when they appear similar on the surface. In Hebrews 5:14, discernment is described as a skill developed through practice, allowing a person to distinguish between good and evil. For the chosen one, this skill often develops through life experience, guided quietly by God. It is not a supernatural performance designed to impress others. It is a form of spiritual clarity that protects you from being easily misled. When God places discernment within someone, it rarely appears as a loud voice or dramatic revelation. Instead, it functions like a quiet signal in the background of your awareness. It nudges you when something does not align with truth. It slows your trust when someone's intentions do not match their words. And sometimes, it simply creates a feeling of caution that you cannot immediately explain. Many people ignore these signals because they prefer comfort over awareness. But the chosen one learns that these signals exist for a reason. They are a form of guidance. They help you navigate a world where truth and deception often exist, side by side. Over the years, you may notice that the feeling becomes clearer and more accurate. Situations that once confused you now become easier to understand. You begin to recognize patterns in how dishonesty reveals itself. You notice that people who lie often rely on performance rather than authenticity, carefully controlling their words while their body quietly betrays the tension underneath. You also discover something even more important. Your discernment does not exist to make you suspicious of everyone around you. It exists to protect your path and sharpen your understanding. God does not give awareness so that you can judge others harshly. He gives it so you can move through life with wisdom. When your spirit reacts to something that does not align with truth, it is not accusing the person in front of you. It is simply reminding you to pay attention. And if you are the kind of person who often senses deception before anyone else does, that quiet alarm inside you may not be a coincidence at all. It may be the beginning of a gift that God placed within you long before you realized it was there. If you have ever wondered why you notice dishonesty faster than most people, the answer often begins with something surprisingly simple. You observe. While many people move through conversations on autopilot, listening only for the general meaning of what is being said, your mind quietly tracks details. It pays attention to timing, tone, posture, and the subtle rhythm of someone's speech. This kind of awareness is not dramatic. It does not announce itself loudly. It simply gathers information in the background while the conversation continues. Over time, this quiet observation becomes one of the strongest reasons you sense when something is wrong. Most people listen to words. Your mind listens to patterns. Patterns are powerful because they reveal consistency, and consistency is difficult to fake for long. When someone speaks honestly, their words, emotions, and behavior tend to align naturally. The story flows without strain. Their body language matches their tone. Their reactions feel proportionate to the situation. But when someone is hiding something or twisting the truth, small fractures begin to appear in that pattern. These fractures are subtle, and many people overlook them completely. Yet your awareness notices them almost immediately. You may recognize that someone answers a simple question with unnecessary details. You may notice that their explanation slightly shifts each time they repeat it. Perhaps their voice changes speed, or their eyes move away at the moment a key point appears in the story. None of these signals prove dishonesty by themselves, but your mind collects them together like pieces of a puzzle. Before long, the overall picture begins to feel incomplete. Something does not match the pattern of sincerity you are used to recognizing. The reason this happens is because your brain naturally compares present information with past behavior. When someone tells you something new, your mind quietly checks it against everything you already know about them. If their actions in the past contradict the story they are telling now, the contradiction stands out to you immediately. While others may focus only on the current moment, your awareness holds a broader memory of the person's character, choices, and habits. This ability to connect details across time strengthens your discernment in ways that many people never develop. Some individuals assume that sensing dishonesty is purely instinctive, but in reality, it often grows from years of careful observation. You have likely spent much of your life watching how people behave in different situations. Perhaps you learned early that actions reveal more truth than promises. Maybe you experienced moments when someone's words sounded convincing, but their behavior later exposed something entirely different. Each of those experiences trained your awareness to recognize the difference between appearance and authenticity. Over time, the process becomes automatic. Your mind no longer needs to consciously analyze every detail because it has already learned what sincerity usually looks like. When something deviates from that pattern, the signal appears almost instantly. This does not mean you assume the worst about people. In fact, the chosen one often hopes to be wrong when that quiet signal appears. You would prefer honesty, clarity, and trust. Yet, your awareness continues doing its work, regardless of your preferences. It watches, it compares, it evaluates, and eventually, it reaches a conclusion that feels difficult to ignore. Scripture describes wisdom as something that grows through attentiveness and understanding. Proverbs often emphasizes the importance of listening carefully and seeking deeper insight, rather than accepting everything at face value. Proverbs 2:2-5 speaks about turning your ear toward wisdom and applying your heart to understanding, so that you may discover knowledge and discern the fear of the Lord. This passage reflects an important truth about discernment. Wisdom rarely arrives through noise or haste. It grows quietly in the mind that pays attention. For the chosen one, this attentiveness becomes a defining trait. You notice details in conversations that others dismiss as insignificant. You remember statements people made months ago and compare them with what they are saying today. You recognize when someone's emotional reaction does not match the situation they are describing. None of these observations require confrontation or accusation. They simply create awareness. That awareness becomes the foundation of discernment.
Another reason you notice deception more easily is because you are willing to pause before accepting information. Many people rush to conclusions because they want immediate clarity. They want a simple answer that allows them to move on quickly. But your mind often prefers patience. Instead of reacting instantly, you allow the situation to unfold long enough for patterns to reveal themselves. This patience gives you an advantage. Lies often collapse under the weight of time because maintaining them requires constant adjustment. A person who is not telling the truth must remember every version of their story, maintain the same emotional tone each time they repeat it, and prevent contradictions from appearing. That level of consistency is difficult to sustain. Eventually, the pattern breaks. When it does, your awareness recognizes the fracture almost immediately. What many people describe as intuition is often the result of this careful observation combined with memory and patience.
Your mind gathers signals that others overlook, organizes them quietly, and presents you with a sense that something is not right. The feeling may appear suddenly, but it is built upon layers of awareness that developed over years. God often uses this kind of attentiveness as a tool for guidance. He does not always reveal truth through dramatic signs. Sometimes he allows wisdom to grow through simple awareness, teaching you to notice what others ignore. When your mind observes carefully, it becomes harder for deception to hide in plain sight. And the more you honor that awareness, the clearer your discernment becomes. Over time, you begin to realize that the ability to recognize dishonesty is not just a personality trait. It is a form of wisdom that God quietly cultivates within those who are willing to see beyond appearances. As your awareness deepens, you begin to notice something even more revealing than words or patterns. You begin to sense emotion. Words can be carefully chosen, stories can be rehearsed, and explanations can be polished until they sound believable. But emotions are far more difficult to disguise. Every person carries an internal emotional current beneath their speech, and that current quietly influences their voice, posture, breathing, and facial expressions. Most people notice these signals only in obvious situations, but the chosen one often detects them even when they are faint. You may find yourself listening to someone speak while feeling a strange tension in the atmosphere around the conversation. Nothing dramatic has happened. The person may appear calm and composed, yet something in their emotional energy does not match the words leaving their mouth. Their explanation might sound confident, but their body seems slightly guarded. Their voice may sound steady, but there is a tightness behind it that suggests discomfort. These signals are small and fleeting, but your awareness catches them almost instantly. This is the strange experience many chosen ones describe, when they say they can feel dishonesty, even without evidence. The feeling does not come from imagination. It comes from your sensitivity to emotional signals that the body cannot fully control. When someone tells the truth, their emotional state usually aligns naturally with what they are saying. Their tone flows easily because they are not struggling to maintain a story. Their body language feels relaxed because there is nothing to conceal. The conversation moves forward without resistance. But when someone lies, their inner emotional state often becomes divided. Part of them is focused on delivering the story, while another part is working hard to manage the tension created by hiding the truth. That internal conflict rarely remains invisible. It leaks into small physical and emotional signals that attentive people can detect. For the chosen one, this sensitivity becomes one of the strongest forms of discernment.
You may sense a flicker of anxiety when someone answers a question too quickly. You may notice that their expression changes for an instant before they correct it. Sometimes the emotion behind their words feels forced, like a performance rather than a genuine reaction. These signals may last only a fraction of a second, yet they leave a clear impression in your mind. Something about the situation feels unsettled. Over time, you begin to trust that emotional signal, even when others dismiss it. Many people rely only on visible facts when evaluating the situation. They assume that if a person's explanation sounds reasonable, then the explanation must be true. But the chosen one learns that emotional alignment often reveals more than logic alone. Words can be constructed carefully. Emotions are far less obedient. This does not mean every moment of nervousness indicates deception. People feel tension for many reasons. However, when emotional signals repeatedly contradict someone's story, your awareness recognizes the inconsistency. The discomfort you sense becomes a quiet warning to slow down and observe more carefully. Scripture reminds us that God does not evaluate people the same way humans do. In 1 Samuel 16:7, it is written that people look at outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. This principle reflects an important aspect of discernment. Truth is not always visible on the surface. Often it exists beneath appearances, hidden within motives, intentions, and emotional states that only careful awareness can detect. When God places discernment within someone, He often gives them a sensitivity to these deeper signals. It allows them to recognize when something beneath the surface does not align with truth. This sensitivity can feel overwhelming at times.
You may sit in a conversation where everything appears normal, yet your spirit quietly senses an emotional disturbance that others cannot detect. You may struggle to explain what you feel because the signals are subtle and difficult to describe. But the impression remains strong enough that ignoring it becomes difficult. This is where many chosen ones begin to feel isolated in their awareness. When others do not notice the same emotional signals, they may assume nothing is wrong. They may continue trusting someone who has already revealed inconsistencies in tone, posture, or emotional response. Meanwhile, you remain aware of the tension beneath the situation, wondering if you are the only one sensing it. Over time, you begin to realize that this emotional discernment is not a coincidence. It is a form of awareness that develops through experience, observation, and spiritual sensitivity. The more you pay attention to these signals, the clearer they become. Eventually, you start recognizing patterns in how emotional tension reveals hidden intentions. People who are sincere tend to carry a sense of calm consistency in their presence. Their words and emotions move in the same direction. But when deception enters the situation, that alignment begins to fracture. The person may attempt to maintain control of their words, yet their emotional signals continue revealing the truth they are trying to conceal. Understanding this dynamic changes the way you navigate relationships. Instead of relying only on explanations, you begin paying attention to the emotional atmosphere surrounding conversations. You observe whether someone's presence feels grounded or strained, open or guarded, sincere or performative. This does not make you suspicious of everyone around you. Instead, it helps you recognize authenticity when you encounter it. One of the most valuable aspects of discernment is that it does not only reveal dishonesty, it also helps you recognize genuine people whose intentions align with their words. When someone speaks with honesty, their emotional signals feel clear and steady. Their presence carries a sense of ease rather than tension. Conversations with them do not create confusion because nothing beneath the surface contradicts what they are saying. This clarity becomes easier for you to recognize because you have already learned how emotional misalignment feels. God often develops discernment through this sensitivity because it allows you to perceive what others overlook. While many people evaluate situations only by appearance, your awareness listens to the emotional language that exists beneath speech. And the more you honor that awareness, the more clearly you begin to see the difference between performance and truth. As your awareness of deception grows stronger, another reality slowly begins to reveal itself. Knowing the truth is not always comfortable. In fact, there are moments when sensing dishonesty feels less like a gift and more like a weight that only you seem to carry. You may find yourself standing in situations where something clearly feels wrong, yet everyone around you continues acting as if everything is perfectly normal. The person speaking may be respected, trusted, or admired by others. Their story may sound convincing to the room, yet deep inside, that quiet signal in your spirit refuses to disappear. It reminds you, again and again, that something beneath the surface does not align with truth. This is where discernment begins to feel complicated. Recognizing deception is one thing. Deciding what to do with that knowledge is something entirely different. Many chosen ones discover that awareness often brings a sense of responsibility. Once you see the inconsistency, pretending not to notice becomes difficult. Your mind continues replaying the moment, examining the signals you observed, questioning whether you should address the situation or remain silent. At times, you may feel tempted to speak immediately, to expose the contradiction you sensed so clearly. But experience quickly teaches that truth and timing must work together. Not every moment of dishonesty requires confrontation. Sometimes speaking too quickly creates conflict without resolving the deeper issue. Other times, people are not ready to hear the truth, even when it stands directly in front of them. This tension can create an unusual sense of isolation. You may sit in conversations where others accept a story that your spirit quietly rejects. You may watch situations unfold where manipulation is obvious to you, but invisible to everyone else. In those moments, you might question your own perception, wondering whether you are misinterpreting the signals you sensed earlier. But over time, patterns confirm what you already felt. Eventually, the truth surfaces, often revealing that the discomfort you experienced at the beginning was accurate all along. Living with this awareness requires maturity. Without wisdom, discernment can easily turn into frustration or judgment. When you repeatedly notice dishonesty, it becomes tempting to view people through suspicion. Yet God does not give discernment so that you can constantly accuse others or expose every hidden flaw you observe. Discernment is meant to guide your decisions, not dominate your reactions. The chosen one eventually learns that not every truth needs to be spoken immediately. Some truths simply need to be recognized so you can respond wisely. This realization changes the way you approach difficult situations. Instead of confronting every inconsistency you notice, you begin observing quietly and allowing time to reveal more information. Patience becomes one of the most valuable tools you possess. When someone is dishonest, their behavior eventually exposes the truth without your intervention. Lies require constant maintenance, and maintaining them becomes increasingly difficult over time. When you allow situations to unfold naturally, the contradictions often reveal themselves more clearly than any argument could. Scripture reflects this balance between truth and timing. Ecclesiastes 3:7 reminds us that there is a time to be silent and a time to speak. Wisdom lies in recognizing the difference between those moments. Speaking truth without wisdom can create unnecessary conflict, while silence, without discernment, can allow deception to spread unchecked. The chosen one learns to walk carefully between these two extremes.
There are moments when confronting dishonesty becomes necessary, especially when it harms others or distorts important decisions. In those situations, courage becomes part of discernment. You speak not to prove yourself right, but to protect what is right.
Yet there are also moments when silence carries greater strength than confrontation. Sometimes the wisest response is simply to step back, adjust your level of trust, and allow the truth to reveal itself in its own time. Learning this balance is not easy. In the beginning, the emotional weight of seeing deception can feel overwhelming. You may struggle with frustration, wondering why others cannot see what appears so obvious to you. You may even feel misunderstood when your concerns are dismissed by people who have not noticed the same signals. But maturity slowly transforms that frustration into clarity. Instead of feeling responsible for correcting every dishonest situation, you begin focusing on how your awareness can guide your own path. Discernment becomes less about exposing lies and more about choosing where to place your trust. You start recognizing which relationships carry authenticity and which ones rely on performance. You learn which environments encourage honesty and which ones quietly reward manipulation. These insights allow you to navigate life with greater stability. Rather than reacting emotionally to deception, you respond strategically. If someone repeatedly demonstrates dishonesty, you simply adjust your expectations and boundaries. You may listen politely, but you no longer rely on their words without verification. If a situation begins to feel manipulative, you create distance rather than engaging in endless conflict. This approach protects your peace while maintaining your integrity. Over time, you realize that discernment is not about controlling other people's behavior. It is about controlling your own response to the truth you perceive. God equips you with awareness, not to burden you with every problem around you, but to help you walk wisely through a world where motives are not always clear. When you accept this purpose, the weight of discernment becomes easier to carry. You no longer feel responsible for correcting every deception you encounter. Instead, you allow your awareness to guide your decisions, your relationships, and the direction of your life. In doing so, the gift that once felt like a burden slowly becomes a form of protection. As your life continues to unfold, you eventually begin to understand that discernment was never meant to make you suspicious of everyone around you. Its true purpose is much quieter and much wiser than that. Discernment is a guide. It protects your direction, clarifies your relationships, and helps you recognize which paths are aligned with truth and which ones quietly lead away from it. When this awareness first develops, it can feel overwhelming. You notice inconsistencies more often than others do. You sense emotional tension in conversations that appear normal to everyone else. And at times, you may wonder if the world would feel easier if you simply ignored these signals, the way many people seem to do. But over time, you begin to see something important. Discernment does not exist to fill your mind with doubt. It exists to give you clarity. Without discernment, people often move through life trusting appearances that hide deeper motives. They form partnerships with individuals who do not share their values. They follow opportunities that appear promising, but quietly lead toward disappointment or manipulation. Discernment interrupts that pattern. It slows you down when something does not feel right. It encourages you to observe more carefully before making decisions that could shape your future. In this way, your awareness becomes a form of protection that many people never develop. When you learn to use it wisely, discernment helps you recognize trustworthy people with greater confidence. Authentic individuals rarely create confusion in your spirit. Their words and actions align naturally. They do not need to constantly prove themselves because their character speaks consistently through their behavior. When you encounter people like this, the atmosphere around the relationship feels steady rather than strained. Conversations feel clear rather than complicated. Trust grows naturally because nothing beneath the surface contradicts what is being presented. At the same time, discernment
helps you recognize environments where honesty is not valued. Certain social circles operate through manipulation, competition, or hidden agendas. In those spaces, people often speak carefully while concealing their true intentions. For someone without awareness, these environments can become exhausting and confusing. But when you carry discernment, the signals become easier to recognize. You notice the subtle patterns that reveal when someone's actions do not match their promises. Instead of becoming trapped in those dynamics, you can quietly step away before deeper damage occurs. This ability strengthens your leadership and judgment over time. Whether in friendships, work environments, or personal decisions, you develop a clearer understanding of who and what deserves your energy. Discernment allows you to invest your time where honesty and integrity exist, rather than chasing approval in places where truth is constantly distorted. Scripture reminds us that wisdom is something God willingly gives to those who seek it. In James 1:5, it is written that if anyone lacks wisdom, they should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault. Discernment is closely connected to this kind of wisdom. It is not a weapon designed to criticize others. It is a light that reveals where truth lives and where deception attempts to hide. When guided by humility, discernment becomes a powerful tool for navigating life with clarity. Humility is important because awareness without humility can easily become arrogance. The chosen one must remember that discernment does not make you superior to anyone else. It simply means you have been entrusted with a certain level of awareness. God gives this awareness so that you can walk carefully, make wiser decisions, and sometimes help others see truth when they are ready to receive it. In many situations, the greatest expression of discernment is not confrontation, but quiet wisdom. You recognize the truth, adjust your expectations, and move forward without unnecessary conflict. You allow your life choices to reflect what you have learned, rather than trying to force others to see what they are not yet prepared to understand. Over time, this approach creates a remarkable sense of clarity. Instead of feeling confused by other people's behavior, you begin to recognize patterns quickly and respond calmly. Instead of becoming entangled in deception, you move toward environments where honesty and stability can grow. What once felt like an unusual sensitivity gradually becomes one of the most valuable tools guiding your path. You begin to realize that God did not give you this awareness by accident. In a world where truth and deception often compete for attention, discernment allows you to move forward without losing your sense of direction. It helps you recognize who deserves your trust and which voices deserve your attention. And when used with humility and wisdom, this gift becomes something far greater than the ability to detect lies. It becomes the ability to walk through life with clarity, stability, and purpose, guided by a deeper understanding of truth. If this message resonated with you, it may not be a coincidence. Many people spend years wondering why they notice things others seem to overlook, especially when it comes to honesty and deception. But sometimes, that awareness is simply part of the way God shaped your mind and spirit to move through the world. Discernment is not always comfortable, but it often becomes one of the most valuable forms of wisdom you can carry through life. If you found meaning in this message today, take a moment to support the channel. Like this video so more people can discover it. Share it with someone who may also be learning to trust their discernment. And subscribe for more messages that explore faith, purpose, and the journey of those who feel called to walk a different path. Your support helps these messages reach people who may need encouragement and clarity in their own season of life. Thank you for being here, and may God continue guiding your steps with wisdom and truth.